Hello? Is this the apothecary?
A young Florentine woman wearing a gorgeous embroidered burgundy gown crept into Julia Tofana's shop, eyeing the corners for strangers. She fidgeted with the sheer black cloth concealing half of her beautiful face and neck.
Ah, yes, Signora. We've been expecting you all evening. I was worried you wouldn't make it to see us.
Julia, nearly 60 but sharp as ever, stood behind her wooden counter, backlit by candles illuminating her potions, elixirs and other wares on the shelves that lined the walls of her obscure shop floor. A young girl, aged about 14 years, and wearing a potion maker's apron and 2 golden braids tied with earthly green ribbons, slipped in quietly from a small, dungeon-like chamber at the back of the room. A pretty but modest moonstone pendant shimmered from her neck, and her fingertips looked to be burnt black from their constant contact with harsh, potent, heated ingredients.
My apologies. I had to make certain I wasn't being followed as you've instructed me to. And the, girl there? I thought this was to be a secret meeting.
The string of pearls interweaved in her long, brown, braided hair rattled as she motioned toward the child. Julia disregarded the woman's concern.
Oh, don't worry. Bella here is just my little apprentice. Do you have what I've asked for?
Oh, yes. Now where did I put them?
The woman said, frantically tearing at her dress pockets.
I have, 2, just in case, from different parts of him.
She produced a satchel with clumps of different coloured hair, one more coarse and darker than the other. Bella crept closer to get a better look at the hair and was astounded the woman was able to obtain it all herself. The little apprentice looks up at the woman's face in the warm glow of the brazier in the centre of the room, now becoming less puzzled.
Wonderful.
Julia feigned excitement for the woman's sake. These transactions tend to be unpleasant without some degree of bedside manner.
Now, come back in exactly 1 week and we will...
1 week? No, Signora Tofana. I was made to understand it would be ready in just days. I may not have that long.
The woman smoothed her hands over the plunging neckline of her dress and her rigid, corseted waist.
Your husband will be dead soon enough, Signora. Enjoy him while it lasts and be sure to have your affairs in order. Now for the matter of payment.
I will not pay you a single lira until it's done. The man's already tied up all of our money in building this great merchant ship of his. No, I am no fool. I know the peril this places me in.
The customer gripped her hips with resolve.
You must be a fool to think that I would let even 1 vial of my elixir leave this shop unsecured. How sure can I be that you're not one of them? Come to trap me?
Oh, I have no authority in my own life, woman. What makes you think I could impose upon you and your precious darling little apprentice here? And you, little girl, what spell does she have over you that would compel you to assist her in such a ghoulish business?
Unsmiling, Bella's eyes pierced through the sheer black linen covering the woman's face and stared just a bit too long.
Oh, forget it. Well, how much will it cost?
She asked, diverting her attention back to the girl's mentor. Julia says, already exhausted by the exchange thus far.
100 lira, Signora.
Fine.
The woman shifts her coin satchel in her hand, hoping she's brought enough. She loosens the tie and begins to scoop from what's left of her life's savings.
Signora Tofana, may I ask you a question?
The woman says as she counts the money in her trembling hand.
Have any of the others lost their nerve when the moment came?
Oh, don't worry about losing your nerve, Signora. You're gaining your freedom.
Bella, as petite and unassuming as she was, leaned over the counter to add,
The freedom you deserve, all of you. You, like the others, will prevail. Don't worry.
The woman, overwhelmed, sucked back tears and spilled a handful of coins upon the wooden counter to muffle the sound. She listfully watched Julia count them. Bella de Morte took her place next to Julia and watched their customer very closely. Her teenaged eyes were intense, but her expression was devoid of any hint of what she was really thinking. Satisfied with the amount, Julia whispered to the woman,
We'll see you next week.
The solution was made to be odourless, tasteless, crystal clear, and available for the right price. The solution, of course, was for swiftly ending dangerous, oppressive, and otherwise harmful entanglements of all sorts. Julia Tofana's most frequent customers were the crestfallen women and children from far and wide, who could find no other way to escape the endless terror in their lives. The tonic slowly but very surely killed anyone who continually ingested it. Though agonizing and perplexing to even the most astute physicians, the mysterious illness it brought on would eventually lead to death, invariably decided to be the result of natural causes. It was called Aqua Tofana, and it was considered a cure for what ailed so many in Florence, Italy, during its grand renaissance. Julia's infallible operation was conducted for years within the shadowy backrooms of the dense Italian metropolis. All Julia ever required from her clients was a full strand of hair from the intended target. With these strands, her young apprentice, Bella da Morte, would prepare the proprietary mixture of herbs, spices, and raw elements needed to produce the elixir. The prodigy had been closely working with Julia Tofana ever since her awakening 3 years ago. You see, Bella da Morte was not just a talented poison maker, she was a witch. And though Julia cared for her as she would a daughter, Bella has kept many secrets from her maestra. Nevertheless, Bella's intuition and insight have never failed Julia in their times of need. They fully trusted each other.
Signora, have you ever given any thought to what you could do with our special service?
Bella rinsed a few bottles in the basin behind the counter, while Julia locked away their payment in an iron strongbox within her private chamber.
What do you mean, Bella?
Well, I was thinking, why don't you sell our services to those in power? Build an empire of your own, brick by brick, vial by vial. Why waste your time in this tragic cycle that will never end?
Well, Bella, you're not quite old enough to understand, but there is no stopping the cycle. We can only pry each other out of it, one by one, whenever the opportunity presents itself.
Pry ourselves out with opportunity, you say? That's a marvelous way to put anything, really.
The heavy wooden door at the entrance of the shop scraped closed on its iron hinges. Unexpectedly, a handsome, well-dressed man with more salt than pepper in his hair swished leisurely through the quiet establishment. It was nearly dusk.
Well, hello, signore. May we help you?
Julia said with forced politeness, gliding back onto the shop floor. She glanced over to Bella, who shook her head slowly and very suspiciously back at her. The man's ripped, sagging black stockings looked worn and tired, and his large, feathered, billowing fabric hat nearly knocked over tonics from the higher shelves as he browsed.
These jars and bottles, they're exquisite. Where do they come from?
He asked, gently swirling a glass onion bottle full of expensive medicine in front of a candelabra hanging from the ceiling. Julia entertained him.
They're, imported. An English diplomat designs them for me. Keeps the elixirs fresher.
I see.
He says, mildly impressed.
You know, I'm building a merchant ship in England. She's called the Briny Fang. Maybe I could import a few bottles from the New World once she's christened. That is, once I've fully financed it.
Is that what you've come to discuss tonight, signore? Procuring exotic glass bottles?
Ah, well, certainly not. I noticed a woman leaving here earlier, Signora Francesca Valori. You see, I'm Lorenzo Valori. She's my wife, and she's been sneaking around the city at night lately. I just can't for the life of me figure out where she's going. I've just been curious about what she's been up to.
He slunk his way up to the shop counter and fell onto his elbows, clasping his hands in front of him. His big, expressive brown eyes bore into Julia's as he awaited a response. He wasn't asking for information, he expected it. Bella glared at the man with silent contempt from the corner while suppressing her snarling lip. She recognized his wafting scent instantly.
Well, Signore Valori, as far as this apothecary is concerned, she was simply looking for a salve.
A salve, was it? Oh dear, and what was this salve for?
The man said, unconvinced, sarcastically gawking.
For the wounds,
Bella clarified.
her face. They look to be about a month old and haven't been healing properly.
Julia reached over to grip Bella's arm in an attempt to silence her. Lorenzo Valori was caught off guard, and without an immediate retort, he lowered his eyes and shut his open mouth. Stepping slightly away from the counter, he finally said,
Yes, well, this is true. A wild beast attacked her in the night recently. She was walking home, alone, which I was voraciously opposed to. As you know, these streets can be very dangerous and unforgiving.
He became disingenuously distracted by the beeswax stacked on top of a barrel nearby.
She should know that herself, but then again, she's quite a simple woman.
You should cherish her. She's a good woman.
Bella.
And she's not as simple as you think.
Bella.
Bella said, unable to feign compassion for the beast of a man standing before her. Her whole body twitched with frustration and unease, her face soured with magmatic scorn. She felt the might of Vesuvius roiling inside of her.
Tend to your duties so we can close up soon.
Julia scolded as she swatted her away.
My apologies if I've kept you.
Lorenzo seemed suddenly unguarded. He swirls the liquid around in a few more eccentric bottles.
I really do care for my wife, you understand? There is nothing I wouldn't do for that woman. Nothing. I only wish I knew what would make her happy. And I want to make sure she's safe. I know I can be a beast to her at times. Please, if she comes in again, won't you assure her of that for me? God knows I've tried. I really do try, Signora.
I promise, Signore. I'll tell her.
Julia says with a smile, but looking through him. Lorenzo nods politely and saunters towards the heavy wooden door that leads out to the quieting streets of Florence. He raps on a few more bottles and turns to smile as he leaves.
Good night, ladies. And thank you for your kindness.
It would take some ingenuity and the use of several new blank pages of her grimoire, but Bella de Morte knew the proper brew of Aqua Tofana to make. For Signora Valori's husband was no ordinary man. He was a heart-eating, shifty, compulsive monster. She must complete the elixir quickly and precisely so that Signora Valori can poison him any way she could and as soon as possible. A human hair potion wouldn't be enough. Bella used the coarse tufts to make a very potent, silver-laced poison that would dampen Lorenzo Valori's ability to resist its effects. Francesca Valori must make absolutely sure he drinks the full vial of poison all at once, before the next full moon rises in a few days. Though her master Julia was blind to it, it was as clear to Bella as the Aqua Tofana she brewed. Lorenzo Valori was indeed a child of the moon. He was a werewolf.
Signora Tofana, it's ready.
The week had passed, and to the potion peddler's relief, Signora Valori returned. She looked grave, more hesitant, more distant. Julia greeted her at the counter, while Bella carefully placed the rather large wood-corked vial in a hay-stuffed oak box for her to carry it in. Bella had cleverly disguised it as a liquid astringent to treat cuts and burns.
While I cannot guarantee any satisfaction during its use, I can assure you that it will work. Now, this is a very special mixture, and may take a bit of creativity on your part to administer it.
Bella slid the vial toward Francesca. The woman smiled weakly, bewildered by her own emotions. She huffs lightly at her, which Bella accepts as a gesture of gratitude for all of her hard work. The young apprentice resumed sweeping up the area around them at the counter, pretending not to listen in.
Now, Signora, you must have him drink the entire vial within a few hours.
The entire vial? But I thought it was supposed to work over a week's time.
Already frustrated, Bella puts a stop to her own sweeping and spins around hastily to engage the woman.
You don't have a week's time, Signora. You're already showing.
Signora Valori gasps and winces with embarrassment, shielding her midriff with the hem of her black veil. Julia is aghast. She's disappointed in Bella's candour, but is grateful she made it known.
You're carrying his child?
Julia asks, disturbed.
No, oh heavens, no, not his child.
The woman blurts.
Oh, I see.
Julia is speechless.
Well, how do I do this? How can I do what you've asked? This is far too much.
Tell him.
What?
Bella suggests as she returns to unproductively pushing dirt and debris around with her broom.
He loves you. He loves you very much, in fact. Tell him he's going to be a father, and tell him publicly, and with good company you trust, tonight. Then throw a great celebration in his honor and mix the vial into his drinks. Make sure he's good and drunk with it before he retires. He'll be dead before nightfall tomorrow. I know this must all feel so impossible, but I swear this to you, Signora, it can be done.
Signora Valori looks to Julia for any sign of support in the plan. Julia is still beside herself with shock.
He'll kill us all if this goes awry. It would be nothing for him. Although, not living through this was never out of the question. I feel so awful. I'm so incredibly frightened. I've failed myself so absolutely, haven't I? Just like I always do. I should have never come here for help.
Bella drops the broom and rushes to Signora Valori, delicately gripping her hand with assertiveness.
This isn't your fault. He was this way long before he met you. And neither he nor you can tame the beast inside him. He said himself he wishes for you to be safe and happy.
Signora Valori's eyes slowly melted into puddles, and she painfully pulled down the black veil from her sore, red face. 4 deep gashes stretched from the top of her head to the bottom of her neck. Julia nearly faints. Neither Bella nor Signora Valori had the heart to tell her that the poison was intended for a werewolf. She had clearly been through enough for one night, and this revelation would have sent the poor woman to the grave.
Celebrate with your family tonight, with those you love.
Bella commands of Francesca, gently pulling the woman's veil back over her face. The woman smooths over the soft, silky strands of Bella's braided hair.
I hope to have a daughter like you, little Bella. Your parents must be absolutely sick with pride.
Bella's nostrils flare and her eyebrows buckle.
I don't hate him.
Francesca continued.
I fear him, but I don't hate him. I pity him.
Bella reached over to pull the box from the countertop and presents it to Francesca.
This is the end of your suffering. To both of your suffering. A new beginning.
And it will appear tragic, but no one will be the wiser.
Julia tries to regain her bearing as well as her foothold in her own shop, realizing the apprentice is quickly becoming the master.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Signora Valori collects the Aqua Tofana and tearfully flees from the shop without another word.
Maestra, I do truly believe he loves her. He just can't control himself. Please tell me we did the right thing.
This is the choice Francesca made. She knows the heavy costs, as do we.
Julia carried on with her late afternoon duties.
It was him, Julia.
Bella whimpers, frustrated by her own vulnerability.
What do you mean, my darling?
3 years ago. It was him that night at my family's villa. He murdered them while I hid in the cellar.
Goodness me.
I hid from him while my madre and padre screamed. I was so powerless.
Oh, dear.
I never want another woman to feel that way. Completely powerless.
Julia stepped quietly toward her and embraced Bella, stroking the top of her golden hair. The woman sighed deeply. Julia offered.
Sometimes, power doesn't lie in our ability to stop or destroy something, but in what we can create and rebuild in spite of it. And Bella, that will always be your choice to make. To use that power to build or to destroy. So what will be your legacy, Bella?